The 2026 NASCAR Clash location has been announced, plus Dale Jr. talks TNT's recent struggles and a major update in the NASCAR charter lawsuit. Welcome back to the Breaking Bob channel. Hope y'all are doing well. We're going to court here in just a few, but we'll get there. We'll get there, I promise. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Always talking NASCAR and racing here at Breaking Bob on a daily basis. And it's been a quiet week so far, and then we just have a massive blow up here on Wednesday morning from the courtrooms. It seems like NASCAR never seems to stop, and we'll get to that in a few, but let's talk about some other things first. Today it was also announced, kind of stealing the thunder a little bit, but NASCAR's Clash location for 2026, they'll be returning to Bowman Gray Stadium in the Madhouse out in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It was really a hit, I think, this year in 2025 for the Clash. Fans, media members, drivers, everyone almost seemed to agree this was a really good success. And with that, everyone's okay, well, now what are you doing next? Well, I think, do one more year. I think it'll work fine. I think that's going to be a really good location one more time for the Clash. It's a really good location because it's close to the teams. They're not going to have to travel far. Also, short track racing, reviving a track name that is synonymous with insanity and craziness. You didn't see it quite this year, but you did see Ty Gibbs go flying, and Chase Elliott did sound the siren for the Clash win there. But talked about this a few weeks ago when this was rumored. Part of that original deal is that it's going to be a 5-year agreement between NASCAR and Bowman Gray Stadium. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have the Cup Series there all 5 years. It just means some sort of NASCAR National Series, whether that's the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, or the Cup Series, will run there one of the next 5 years. So, I would think that the Clash runs in 26 there, and then you could potentially see it become like Rockingham, where it's a one-off for Xfinity or trucks. It's close to the team shops, and it's also a way for those drivers to kind of hone in their short track abilities. Not a ton of those in this country. But I, for one, am excited about the Clash returning to Bowman Gray for 2026. One less thing we can question about the 26 schedule. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are you excited about NASCAR returning to the Madhouse? Moving on. Since you're watching this video, I imagine you're probably like me and you crave NASCAR content left, right, center. You probably watched the Dale Jr. downloadable yesterday. Thought it was interesting how he was talking about, he acknowledged the TNT struggles from this weekend, and even the opening race in Atlanta, everyone's talking about it. It was a rough race, whether it was the sound mixing, the booth, the camera quality was really tough. You think back to Bubba Wallace getting spun by Alex Bowman right in the middle of a camera cut. It was almost Fox-like there. And I know it's really unfair because you're going right after Prime, but I thought Dale Jr.'s the way he talked about the struggles and how he acknowledged them, it was interesting. There was a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. One of them was a fair point that he acknowledged that Atlanta and Chicago, some of the hardest races to broadcast on the TV side. Now, Atlanta, I didn't realize he was saying that it's the original broadcast setup for the mile-and-a-half oval before it's been reconfigured. So it's hard to keep up with the drafting style pace that it's not really set up for broadcast style. You would think when they reconfigured it, they would have invested some money into Echo Park Speedway. Look at that. I didn't even notice until now. But Echo Park Speedway, you would think they would have reinvested in part of the media compound just to set up for that style racing. But who am I? I don't. I'm not. My background's not in TV. I'm a YouTuber. And Chicago Street Course, I think that goes without saying how difficult it is because it's not a traditional setup. You tear down the track, and there's pedestrian cars on it as we speak right now, just 72 hours after the race. It's a different style setup, and it's unique for whatever reason because of the skyline, even the spotter setups. There's hard sight lines for everyone. So it's a struggle for everyone. You got to give TNT some grace, but still the bar was set from Amazon, and it was definitely a struggle to watch at times there. Thought that was really interesting from Dale Jr. Another thing to note is that this TNT crew, they have not really broadcasted NASCAR before. Some of the people in the production group probably are stragglers or leftovers from the TNT NASCAR broadcast back in 2014. You have some people that work from NBC over there, but Amazon's crew was pretty much the old NASCAR crew from NBC and TNT. It was a hybrid of everyone. This TNT crew is pretty much brand new to the sport. So when Dale Jr. says, we've got a new director who's never called the sport, that's a learning curve. And you get those two races, like I said, Chicago, Atlanta. It's definitely something to note there. But hopefully Sonoma this weekend, more traditional. It is a road course, but NASCAR's been going there for decades. It's going to be a little bit more, hopefully, traditional. And TNT hopefully can watch the film and learn from the mistakes. It's not easy to call a race, especially the last two tracks, like I said. But at some point you do have to keep a standard to withhold. The bar has to be set. And fortunately for everyone else, Amazon just set the bar about up here when Fox all had it down here. And NBC was pretty good, but Amazon has just completely set a new standard for NASCAR viewing, it seems like. And finally, all rise. It's time for NASCAR as a major update in the NASCAR charter lawsuit. Of course, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports did not sign that charter agreement. They've been going at NASCAR tooth and nail in court for the last calendar year almost, it seems like it's been. But a major update today as a few weeks ago, a preliminary injunction that was granted for 2311 and Front Row Motorsports to run as chartered cars this year was basically taken back. And with that, it was announced today that that appeal was rejected. So, what does that mean? That appeal being rejected in court today means that as of next week, NASCAR can take back the charters, all six, three each from 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. That would mean those cars would be entering as open entry cars. They would not be guaranteed a spot in the field. Now, doesn't happen a ton, but look last week at Chicago. Which car went home? Not a car we thought it would be. It was the 2311 open entry of Corey Hyman. If all six of these cars would have ran as open entries as well, wouldn't have been MBM, it wouldn't have been Live Fast, it would have been 2311, not Corey Hyman, but Bubba Wallace would have been the DNQ. So you look at that perspective, everything changes a little bit. Again, it's not going to happen a ton, but outside the Daytona 500, it doesn't happen often. It hadn't happened since 2018, 2017 at Texas, but that's something to note. The real impact from this will be that the financial repercussions. They won't be running as chartered cars, so they won't get the purse money that the charter cars earn. It's going to be a massive financial hit there. Plus, they might have to pay back the winnings they've had as chartered cars this year if that injunction is anything to note there. NASCAR said, well, you weren't running as chartered cars then, basically. Pay us back what you got. And that's millions of dollars for both teams to pay. That is something that would be absolutely crippling potentially to a race team. And then you have the actual contracts in place, drivers, sponsors. If they're not guaranteed entry, who's to say sponsorships won't leave left and right? And then you go to the driver contracts. Almost every driver, I believe, is guaranteed a spot as a chartered driver. And if that's not the case, they could be a free agent. That opens them up for potential seeking other opportunities. And now nobody's saying Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, Noah Gragson, any of those drivers are going to be in a new seat next week. But it just leaves that opportunity that everyone's a little more uncomfortable. And again, this is probably the worst case scenario for teams outside of losing the actual lawsuit. Now, what does it mean moving forward? We'll have to see how NASCAR handles it next week at Dover. But you could have potentially 10 open entries and 30 cars chartered into the race. That is just unfathomable, but it's potentially the reality that we could see here throughout the rest of the NASCAR season. So let me know your thoughts down below about this major update from NASCAR today with the teams versus NASCAR. Big blow for the teams. Of course, the Madhouse getting the clash back in 2026. And Dale Jr.'s talk about TNT struggles. Do you think that you got some hope as the season continues? They got 3 more races, Sonoma next week. It's also tough just to get a footing there when it's only 5 races. It's really quick. As soon as it's here, you're gone. So tough for TNT there. But make sure to like this video, subscribe to Breaking Bob if you like what you saw. It does help me out a ton here, I always say, but it truly does. Comment below what you thought, and I'll see you next time for more NASCAR talk. See you next time. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.